You wake up before the sun, but in ancient Egypt that doesn't matter, because the sun has been awake long before you. Its light pierces through the cracks of your reed hut, flooding the single room with a brightness so raw it feels like punishment. There are no curtains, no shades, and certainly no air conditioning. Just the desert itself, pushing its heat into your lungs, reminding you that the god Ra is already at work. You lie on a straw mat that scratches your skin through a linen sheet so thin it might as well be a rumor. Every breath tastes of dust. You try to convince yourself that the Nile breeze you've heard about in travel documentaries will soon arrive, but it never does. It probably died sometime around 2,800 years before Christ, strangled by the same heat now coiling around your body. By the time you push yourself upright, the air is already heavy, your linen tunic glued to your back. Outside, the ground blazes with light reflected off stone and sand. The temperature has already climbed close to 90 degrees Fahrenheit, roughly 32 degrees Celsius, and the day hasn't even reached mid-morning. You squint toward the horizon where the dunes ripple like liquid gold, the heat rising in shimmers that make the world look unstable. There are no clouds, no mercy, only a pale blue void pressing down. The sun in ancient Egypt doesn't just shine, it attacks. The first step you take outside your hut feels like walking onto a griddle. The stones are hot enough to cook lentils, and even the mud brick walls of your home seem to sweat. You look for shade, but trees are rare. The only relief comes from hugging the side of a wall that burns slightly less than the open air. Your neighbors are already awake, moving slowly through the brightness, faces wrapped in cloth to keep from breathing sand. You envy the priests and the wealthy who smear themselves with oils and perfumes made from lotus and myrrh, thin shields against the fire of the sky. You have none of that. Your only protection is mud, or, if you're desperate, crocodile dungan ancient recipe that might keep the worst of the sun off your skin. Might. You know better than to curse the heat aloud. The sun isn't just weather, it's authority. The hotter the day, the more powerful Ra is said to be feeling. To complain about the sun is to question the divine. So you swallow your discomfort and whisper a small prayer, half respect, half survival. May the god of the sky burn the wicked before he burns you. The smell of smoke and dust hangs in the air as you walk toward the Nile. The river is the pulse of this world, a gleaming serpent that keeps Egypt alive. And yet, even from a distance, you can smell its rot. The sacred life-giver of the kingdom also stinks like a swamp at war with itself. The waterline buzzes with flies, frogs, and unseen creatures that churn beneath the surface. Still, you have no choice. This is where you bathe, where you wash your clothes, where you collect water to drink. There is no soap, there are no scented oils unless you serve a temple or were born lucky. The rest of you rely on sand nature's rough version of cleanliness. You kneel by the bank and rub the coarse grains across your skin, scraping away sweat and grime. It's not refreshing, it's exfoliation that hurts. The water feels alive in the wrong way, warm and crowded with things that touch your legs before slipping away. You try not to think about crocodiles or the fact that sewage and funeral runoff float somewhere upstream. Nearby, a woman pounds clothes against rocks while her children chase a goat too close to the water. A man fills clay jars and balances them on his shoulders, ready for the long walk home before the heat hardens the ground into baked clay. There is no privacy here. Families, livestock, even sacred ibis birds share the same riverbank. The scene is chaotic but rhythmic, as if life itself has adapted to the river's unpredictable pulse. You tell yourself this is sacred water, the breath of the gods, and yet you know it's also a slow poison. Still, it is all you have. By the time you return home, the linen around your waist has already dried stiff with salt. Your stomach growls. Breakfast in ancient Egypt is not a pleasure, it is a necessity. You sit on the floor or squat near a clay oven still radiating heat from the night before. Someone hands you breadens, coarse, and freckled with grains of sand from the millstones that ground it. It tastes like survival and erosion at once. You chew carefully, aware that every bite wears down your teeth a little more. The next course is beer, but not the kind you know. This one is thick and cloudy, more porridge than pint. It's lukewarm, yeasty, and slightly sour, but it fills your belly and gives you strength to endure the day. Even children drink it, not out of indulgence, but because it's safer than the Nile. The brewing process kills what the river breeds. If you're fortunate, there's an onion or a handful of dried dates. If not, you keep chewing until the emptiness dulls. Around you, flies buzz and land on everything, unbothered by your attempts to swat them away. You remind yourself that complaining is dangerous, that gratitude is expected. You are, after all, alive in the land of gods. Work waits. The fields and workshops are calling. The overseers are already shouting. The sun climbs higher. You pick up your tools, knowing this is how every day begins and how most of them end sweating, blistered, and grateful to still be breathing. The hours stretch like the desert horizon. If you are a farmer, your feet sink into the Nile's mud before dawn. You bend, pull weeds, sow barley, and listen for the sound of your overseer's whip-slicing air. If your back aches, that means you're doing it right. If you build monuments, your work is heavier. You haul stones that weigh more than cattle, barefoot on ramps made of gravel and prayer. One wrong step, and your foot is crushed. The foreman shrugs. The gods take who they will. You think about the Pharaoh, the man you'll never meet but are told to worship. His name is carved into temple walls, sung in festivals, stamped onto coins, baked into bread molds. He is not just a ruler, but a god in human form. The living Horus, son of Ra, keeper of balance. The flood of the Nile, the success of crops, even the weather itself are said to depend on his divine favor. When the river rises, you thank him. When it doesn't, you blame yourself. To question him is heresy. To criticize is suicide. Somewhere in your bones, you understand that obedience is the only law that matters. Women work beside men, grinding grain until their palms bleed, carrying jars of water, weaving linen that sticks to their skin in the heat. Their rest comes only when the baby sleeps, and even then, it's short. There are no breaks, no days off, no promises of rest in this life, only in the next. You learn to move without stopping, because stopping invites hunger, and hunger invites death. As the day drags on, the desert begins to fight back in new ways. The wind shifts, and the air turns into a storm of sand. It slips under your tunic, grinds against your skin, fills your mouth when you breathe. Every grain is a reminder that comfort does not exist here. The sun may be the god of power, but sand is his messenger. You eat sand with every meal. It hides in your bread, clings to your beer, and nestles in your teeth. It's why archaeologists find ancient skulls with teeth worn flat as river stones. The constant grinding of grit is as common as breathing. Your house, made of mud brick, offers no refuge. The walls are porous, the floor a fine layer of dust. Each gust of wind pushes more inside. The sand covers your bed, your food, your life. When storms come, they do not announce themselves politely. One minute the air is clear, the next it roars with fury. Visibility drops to nothing. You feel the world vanish into a haze of orange and pain. You close your eyes, but it makes no difference. The sand finds every gap, every pore, every breath. It scours your skin, your lungs, your patience. When it passes, you are left coated in grit, blinking through tears that burn like salt. By sunset, the land glows red, and the temperature finally drops. But the heat has already settled deep in your bones. You shake sand from your clothes, knowing it will be there again tomorrow. In ancient Egypt, the desert is not background. It is a character alive, relentless, and unavoidable. It crawls into your bed at night, whispers in your ears, scratches at your eyelids while you dream. You don't fight it anymore. You simply learn to live with it, because here, the sand is not an enemy you can defeat. It is the country itself, and you are part of it now. The day begins before you do. In ancient Egypt, dawn doesn't arrive gently. It strikes. The first thing you feel is heat. The second is the weight of light pressing against your eyelids like a command. When you open them, you're staring into a world already shimmering under a sky without mercy. The air in your reed hut is still heavy and tastes faintly of dust and smoke. You're lying on a straw mat that scratches your skin through a thin linen sheet barely worth calling fabric. There are no curtains to soften the sunrise, no shade to hide beneath, no cool air drifting in from the Nile. Just the relentless glow of the desert, turning everything it touches into an oven. You sit up, and your back sticks to the sheet. Every movement feels like work. Sweat forms before your thoughts do. Outside, the light is blinding, pouring through cracks in the wall like liquid fire. The idea of comfort is foreign here. The people who live along the Nile know that the sun is both their god and their punishment. It gives life, it demands it back, and it never forgets who's in charge. The temperature climbs fast. By the time you stand, the air is already flirting with 90 degrees Fahrenheit, about 32 degrees Celsius, and it's not even mid-morning. The ground beyond your doorway gleams with heat, the sand shifting like molten glass. The desert doesn't wait for permission, it consumes. There are no trees to break the light, no mountains to hold it back. Just endless sky and the low hum of flies that seem to thrive on exhaustion. You step outside barefoot, because sandals are a luxury, and immediately regret it. The stones are hot enough to cook lentils, and every grain of sand feels like a spark against your skin. The mud brick walls around you radiate warmth, as if the buildings themselves have hearts that beat fire. The only shade comes from narrow alleys or the shadow of another body, and even that shade moves too fast to matter. You glance at the horizon where the dunes shimmer, bending the air in waves that make the earth look fluid. The light plays tricks on your eyes, blurring what's real and what's illusion. Somewhere in that wavering distance, priests are already performing morning rituals to honor Ra, the sun god, the lord of creation, and the reason you're already half melted before breakfast. His rise marks the beginning of labor for everyone: farmers, builders, women grinding grain, children hauling water, and his descent will mark their only rest. You are told to be grateful for this heat. To suffer beneath it is a privilege, a sign that Ra notices you. The stronger the sun burns, the more powerful he feels. The logic doesn't comfort you, but in Egypt, belief is survival. To complain about the sun is to insult divinity, and that kind of mistake can shorten your life. So you whisper a prayer under your breath, not for coolness but for endurance. Your tunic, woven from linen as light as air, offers no help. It clings to your shoulders like damp parchment, trapping heat rather than releasing it. Sweat runs down your neck, your spine, and into the folds of fabric. You wipe your face, but the salt stays, drying into thin white lines that sting your eyes. The only sound around you is the wind brushing against reeds and the distant chatter of people already awake, already working. In the distance, the Nile glimmers like a blade. The river is your salvation and your trap. It feeds the crops, cools the air slightly, and promises relief. But the closer you get, the stronger the smell: stagnant water, mud, and something rotten. You know that the same current that nourishes your fields also carries sewage, animal waste, and the remains of the dead. Still, it is sacred. You bow your head slightly as you approach, because reverence is habit here. The river is a god too, and like all gods in Egypt, it has a temper. You watch the sun climb higher, an orb so bright it turns the sky pale. The sand beneath your feet reflects it back until it feels like the world is burning from both directions. In this land, light is not gentle. It cuts. The air vibrates, shimmering between beauty and cruelty. You are both awed and oppressed by it. By now your body feels like baked clay. and the thought of water becomes an obsession. The Nile is near enough to touch, yet distant in its danger. You take one last look at the sky and realize there is no escape from it, no mercy in this brightness. The sun here doesn't shine out judges, and every day begins with the same silent question: can you survive it again? The Nile waits for you, not as a paradise, but as a necessity. Its surface gleams like polished bronze, reflecting a sky that never softens. You can smell the river long before you reach a mix of mud, fish, and decay. To the ancient Egyptians, it is sacred, the source of life, the spine of the kingdom. But holiness does not mean cleanliness. The same water that feeds the fields also carries refuse, dead animals, and whatever the living throw away. You tell yourself that gods must be tolerant of filth because this river is worshipped daily. Without it, Egypt dies. You join the slow procession toward the banks, carrying a clay jar that will be filled and balanced on your shoulder for the walk home. Families crowd the edges, some bathing, some washing clothes, some gathering water. Children chase chickens through the reeds. Goats bleat. The air hums with flies. The smell clings to your throat, sharp and sour, but no one seems to notice. This is normal. You kneel at the edge, where the mud is cool and slick. There is no soap. You scoop sand in your hands and begin to rub it across your arms and chest, scraping away the sweat and dust. It's a crude form of exfoliation, nature's sandpaper. The grains sting, and small cuts open on your skin. You rinse them off, watching the water swirl dark with silt. If you are lucky, you'll leave cleaner than you arrived, though that's more optimism than truth. The water moves sluggishly, carrying fragments of reeds and the occasional ripple from something alive below: fish, if you're fortunate, or crocodiles if you're not. You try not to think about the latter. The priests say that Sobek, the crocodile god, guards these waters. Maybe he does. Maybe he's hungry. You pray under your breath, offering a handful of crushed grain to the current, hoping it counts as respect. Nearby, women slap wet cloth against rocks, their rhythm echoing like drums. The sound carries up and down the river, mingling with laughter and shouting. They work quickly before the sun climbs too high. Each strike splashes droplets that sparkle in the light, briefly beautiful before sinking back into the murk. A young boy rinses a jar beside you, scooping water for his family. He's barefoot, his feet sunk deep in the mud. He doesn't flinch when a frog jumps past or when the surface ripples with movement. To him, this is ordinary life. To you, it's survival by ritual. When you finish bathing, you shake the sand from your skin, though it never truly leaves. You feel cleaner, lighter, and yet more tired. You know that the water has washed off your sweat but replaced it with the river's memory, its filth, its life, its ghosts. You scoop up a jarful and lift it to your shoulder. It's heavy, and the strap digs into your skin. The walk back to your home is short but brutal. The sun has risen higher now, and each step feels like wading through heat. The jar wobbles with your stride, threatening to spill. The air smells of clay and sweat. When you finally reach your house, you pour a little water into a bowl for the day's use: cooking, drinking, maybe another rinse if you dare waste it. You glance at the shimmering river one last time and remind yourself that it is both friend and enemy, miracle and menace. It feeds you, cleans you, and might one day drown you. Yet you are told to love it, to honor it, to thank it. So you do. Because here, gratitude is another word for survival. The Nile defines everything. It decides where you live, what you eat, how long you live, and whether your gods will smile upon you. To bathe in it is to touch divinity, even if divinity smells faintly of rot. You dry yourself with the edge of your tunic, aware that the clean feeling will fade before noon. The day is young, but you already feel old. The river whispers behind you, its surface calm, hiding its secrets beneath the gleam. You turn away, because staring too long into it feels like looking into the eye of something that knows exactly how small you are. Breakfast in ancient Egypt is less a meal and more an act of endurance. You sit cross-legged on the packed dirt floor of your hut, the air already thick with heat and flies. There is no table, no silverware, no scent of coffee or fruit, just the smell of sweat, smoke, and baked grain. The bread in front of you is the same as it was yesterday and will be tomorrow dense, heavy, and full of grit. It's made from emmer, wheat, or barley ground between stones, the flour so coarse it might as well be sand. And in truth, it is. Every bite is a small act of defiance against hunger and erosion alike. You tear a piece off, chewing slowly because you have to. It resists your teeth, and the grit grinds against your molars like sandpaper. Archaeologists centuries from now will find your worn-down teeth and marvel at how quickly life consumed you. You take a sip of beer to soften the bread. Not the golden, fizzy drink of modern times, but a cloudy, lukewarm, sludge-liquid bread more than beverage. It's thick, almost chewy, and tastes faintly sour, like fermented grain left too long in the sundae. Still, it's safer than water. The brewing process has boiled away the parasites the Nile loves to share. You drink deeply, the bitter taste sliding down your throat with effort. Even children drink it, not for pleasure, but because it won't kill them. The beer fills your stomach with warmth and dulls the ache of morning hunger. Somewhere in that haze of calories and fermentation is survival. Occasionally, there's an onion to eat, maybe a few dried dates, or if fortune smiles, a sliver of salted fish. The rest is imagination. Flies land on your arm, your food, your face. You wave them away, but they always return, drawn by the scent of sweat and grain. Around you, others eat in silence, squatting in the corners of their huts, each person half asleep, already bracing for the labor ahead. Breakfast isn't a time to talk. It's a brief ceasefire between exhaustion and obligation. You think of the people who live differently, the priests, the scribes, the merchants, those who eat honey, figs, and soft bread baked in ovens free from rats and dust. You wonder what it would be like to taste sweetness that isn't born from fermentation. But envy is dangerous. The gods might hear and remind you of your place. In Egypt, gratitude is not optional. It's survival instinct dressed as faith. So, you thank them for the bread, the beer, and the strength to lift your body from the floor again. The heat presses through the doorway, reminding you that the sun is already waiting outside. You finish your bread, drinking the last of the beer, leaving only foam that smells faintly of yeast and smoke. Your stomach feels heavy, your mouth dry despite the liquid, and your head slightly light from the fermentation. But it's enough. You've eaten enough to stand, to work, to live until evening. You brush crumbs from your lap, the texture rough against your palms. The floor is scattered with bits of grain and sand. There's no cleaning them up, they belong here as much as you do. Someone outside calls your name, and the sound echoes against the mud brick walls. Work begins soon. You take one last sip, the dregs thick and bitter, then set the clay cup aside. As you stand, the linen of your tunic clings to you again, damp from sweat and humidity. The morning meal has given you strength but not comfort. Comfort doesn't exist here. There is only fuel for another day. You step outside, feeling the heat hit your face like a wall, and realize that breakfast in ancient Egypt isn't meant to satisfy. It's meant to remind you that even survival has a taste, and it's dry, gritty, and faintly sour. The day has truly begun. The sun, now high and merciless, glares down like an overseer who never blinks. Work is not optional. Here it is, the spine of your existence. Unless you were born into a temple or scribal school, your labor defines you, consumes you, and will one day bury you. In ancient Egypt, there is no such thing as rest. There is only survival through motion. If you are a farmer, your life starts in the fields before dawn and ends when the sky burns red again. You wade ankle-deep in the Nile's mud, your feet sliding through the silt as you plant barley and wheat. The ground smells of rot and life all at once. The wooden plow you use creaks with each pull, drawn not by oxen but often by your own hands. Your back aches before the morning is half done. Sweat mixes with dust, turning your skin into clay. The overseer walks the edges of the field, shouting, his whip coiled like a second shadow. You do not look up when he passes. Eyes on your work, always. If you build, your labor is heavier. You haul stones that weigh more than your own family, pushing them up ramps of gravel beneath a sun that scorches your lungs. You work barefoot, feeling every shard of rock, every blister blooming beneath your skin. The heat makes the air shimmer, bending the horizon until you can't tell what's real. You hear men groan, stumble, fall. Some do not rise again. The foreman shrugs. There are always more laborers. The gods require monuments, and monuments require bodies. Inside the quarries, the sound is a constant chorus of hammer and chisel. Dust fills the air like fog, coating your throat. You cough until your ribs ache. Each strike of your tool echoes against the limestone walls, the sound swallowed by the endless noise of others doing the same. There's no talking, just the rhythm of survival, the clink of tools, the grunt of effort, the hiss of breath. If you are a woman, your labor is no lighter. You grind grain on flat stones, kneeling for hours until your knees bruise and your palms bleed. You haul water from the river, cook, weave, tend to children, and sometimes join the men in the fields. Your rest comes only when the baby sleeps, and even then, you keep moving. Bread must be baked, jars mended, animals fed. The air inside your home is thick with smoke from the fire pit and the faint sweetness of fermenting beer. It clings to your hair, your skin, your breath. There are no holidays for the poor. Festivals exist, but they belong to priests and nobles, to those who can afford to praise the gods without losing a day's ration. For you, worship happens through work. Every swing of your arm, every drop of sweat, every grain you harvest is an offering. When your muscles burn and your skin cracks from the sun, you tell yourself the gods are watching, and that effort itself is holy. Sometimes, as you labor beneath the open sky, you think of the monuments you help raise, the tombs, the temples, the statues taller than any building. They are made to honor the Pharaoh, the living god, the one who will never see the calluses on your hands. His name is carved in stone, larger than life, while yours will be forgotten by sunset. Yet you still work, because to build his tomb is to earn your own fragment of eternity. That is what they tell you, and you have learned not to question it. The day stretches endlessly. The heat blurs the horizon until time itself feels like it's melting. You don't count hours because there are none to count. The sun is the only clock, and it will not stop for you. When it finally dips behind the dunes, the sky glows blood red, and the air cools just enough to breathe again. You drag yourself home, dust-covered, half alive, bones humming from the weight of the day. Your body feels borrowed, your thoughts distant. You collapse onto your straw mat and stare at the ceiling made of reeds. Through the cracks, the stars begin to appear cold, distant, and indifferent. The world above you is beautiful, but it offers no rest. Tomorrow will come the same way today did, without choice, without mercy, and without pause. In ancient Egypt, work isn't what you do, it's what you are. In Egypt, power has a face, and that face is the Pharaoh's. He isn't a man in the way you understand men. He is the bridge between heaven and earth, the living Horus, son of Ra, the embodiment of divine order. To question him is to question the universe itself, and the universe does not tolerate doubt. You don't vote for him, you don't speak his name casually, and you certainly don't complain about the work you do in his name. The Pharaoh's word is law, because his word is believed to be the echo of the gods. His image is everywhere. You see him carved into the walls of temples, towering over soldiers and priests, his figure larger than any other. Artists aren't exaggerating, they're obeying. Size equals divinity. Even when you grind grain or shape bricks, his gaze follows you from painted murals, calm and eternal. His statues sit in doorways, his name stamped onto amulets, bread molds, and coins. The message is clear. He is watching, and the gods are watching through him. When the Nile floods well and the harvest is generous, people praise the Pharaoh for his wisdom and favor with the gods. When the river runs low or famine strikes, no one blames him aloud. Instead, they whisper about sin, about balance lost, about humans failing the cosmic order called Ma'at. It's always your fault, never his. You are not pure enough, not faithful enough, not humble enough. The Pharaoh doesn't fail, the people do. Some say they've seen him, but most never will. The closest you might get is catching a glimpse of a golden bark gliding down the river during a festival, carrying his likeness or perhaps the man himself behind veils of incense and guards. The boat shines like the sun, and you kneel in the mud as it passes, your head lowered. To look directly at him would be arrogance. He drifts by, distant and untouchable, and then he's gone. Just like the gods he represents, he appears and vanishes on his own schedule, needing nothing from you but obedience. There are rules you learn early. Speak well of the Pharaoh, work hard, pay your taxes, and never grumble within earshot of an overseer. Even small talk can be dangerous. A stray complaint might travel farther than you think. Egypt runs on rumor as much as on grain, and one wrong word can bring the lush or worse. To criticize divine rule is blasphemy, and blasphemy is a crime the desert is eager to bury. You've heard stories about what happens to those who forget their place. A village that once withheld its taxes no longer exists. The state sent soldiers, priests, and fire. Now there's just sand where houses used to stand. The lesson is simple and permanent. The Pharaoh's will is not to be questioned. His rule keeps chaos at bay, and without him, the world would collapse back into the primordial waters. It's what the priests say during rituals, and it's what you repeat under your breath, even if your heart feels otherwise. The Pharaoh's authority seeps into everything. The temple scribes record your rations and labor quotas in his name. The overseers claim their whips are instruments of divine justice. The priests preach that your sweat strengthens the cosmic balance. Even your hunger is a sacrifice to order. It's all connected, all sacred. And in a way, it makes sense. In a land where the sun itself is worshipped, hierarchy feels natural. The light shines from above and burns everything below. At night, when you lie awake and stare at the ceiling, you wonder if he ever feels the heat like you do. If his palace walls block out the sound of the wind howling through the dunes, if his feet ever touch the same burning ground, you'll never know. To the common people, he is both savior and stranger, a being too vast to imagine and too distant to reach. You can't love him, but you must revere him. And so you rise each morning, offering a silent prayer for his health, for his strength, for his endless reign. Because if the Pharaoh falls, Egypt falls. And if Egypt falls, so does the world as you know it. That belief is the cornerstone of every brick you lay, every field you till, every grain you grind. You are small, but you belong to something enormous, something divine, something that demands your devotion as the price of existence. The desert never leaves you alone. Even when the air is still, the sand moves. It creeps through cracks in the walls, gathers in corners, clings to your clothes, and hides in your food. It lives with you, sleeps with you, and scratches your skin while you dream. The Egyptians call it the body of the gods, the flesh of the land. But you know better. It is both companion and curse, always waiting for a chance to remind you who truly rules this kingdom. You wake with grit in your mouth, a faint crunch between your teeth. It doesn't matter how often you wash. The Nile rinses you, but the sand returns before your skin is dry. It hides in your hair, in your bed, under your fingernails. Every breeze stirs it to life again, swirling through the air like ash. When you eat, you taste it. When you breathe, you inhale it. When you pray, it settles on your lips. The sand is patient, and it always wins. Your clothes offer no defense. Linen may be light and breathable, but it is no armor. It lets the sand through like a sieve. Each gust sends grains down your collar, under your tunic, across your chest and legs. It rubs against your skin until you feel raw, every movement leaving faint scratches that sting when sweat trickles over them. You try to brush it off, but it only spreads. By midday, your body feels like it has been polished by the desert itself. The bread you eat is gritty, the beer faintly crunchy. You chew and swallow, feeling the tiny grains grind your molars into flat stones. Centuries from now, scholars will find the teeth of Egyptians worn smooth and wonder why. They'll write about the sand in the flour, about the grinding stones that shed fragments into the meal. But you don't need scholars to tell you. You can feel it with every bite. The desert feeds on you slowly, one mouthful at a time. Your house doesn't protect you either. The mud brick walls are full of gaps and pores, perfect doorways for the wind. There are no windows, only holes that invite the heat by day and the sand by night. It coats the floor, gathers on the sleeping mat, and turns your home into a slow-moving dune. You sweep it out every morning, and every evening it returns. You could curse it, but what's the point? The sand doesn't listen. It just keeps coming. The soft voice of eternity whispering that one day you'll join it. Then there are the sandstorms, Egypt's cruelest gift. They come without warning, a distant growl in the wind, a faint blur on the horizon, and then chaos. The sky darkens, not with clouds but with earth. The air thickens, the world disappears. You close your eyes and cover your face, but it's useless. The sand forces its way through every gap, stinging your skin, filling your nostrils, burning your eyes. The sound is like 1,000 whispers and 1,000 screams all at once. The gods, it seems, have decided to shake the world. When the storm passes, silence returns too quickly. You look around, and everything is changed. The ground is buried in new drifts, the landscape reshaped. The desert erases its own scars. You spit out the dust that coats your tongue and taste bitterness. The storm feels like a message, a reminder that life here belongs to the sand. You may build temples and tombs, but the desert is patient. It will take them all back eventually. Even your body is not exempt. You cough, and fine particles rise from your lungs. Your skin is dry, your eyes red and raw. Yet somehow, you keep working, keep living, keep breathing the same air that slowly wears you down. You've learned that resistance is useless. The sand isn't your enemy, it's your inheritance. It's in your blood now, in your bones, in the words you speak. At night, when the wind calms, you can hear the faint hiss of the dunes shifting in the distance. It's almost soothing, a lullaby sung by the desert itself. You lie still, feeling the grit beneath your skin, knowing it will be there when you wake. The sand doesn't sleep, it waits. And in Egypt, waiting is what eternity feels like.